Good afternoon, everyone. This is James Weinberg and William Ward from TWG Plus. Welcome to the Social Media ROI for College Admissions, Brand Research, and Customer Service webinar. I'm going to turn it over to William Ward.
Again, good afternoon. We hope all is well. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join in with us to continue the conversation. We ask that you are in a comfortable place. We hope you have your shoes off and you're relaxed and you're ready to engage in a fun and exciting conversation. Again, this is March Madness, social media, return on investment for college admissions, brand research, and customer service. 2,736 conversations across 7 HBCUs across the nation. Again, this presentation will demonstrate how leveraging your institution's social media conversations can translate into informed messaging, growth strategies, branding efforts, and day-to-day customer service practices. James, if you can go to the next slide at this time. Again, oftentimes many people excuse me. Yeah. Oftentimes, everyone has some type of familiarity with social media or online, or has an online presence in some way, shape, or form. The challenge often is figuring out how to measure the success of your online engagement in the higher education space. We at TWG Plus believe there are oftentimes a potential distracting metrics for evaluating the success, such as how many likes on Facebook, retweets, shares, and how many fans that you have. As James, as you go to the next slide, our focus, we believe, is for you to really narrow in and focus on the conversations that are being had about your institution. In our personal space, as we use social media, we use it as essentially an outlet to share our thoughts and to express ourselves. Within the college and higher ed space, we like to look at it and view it as the opportunity to listen to the conversations that are being had about your institution. We've taken time to just highlight a few quotes that really narrow in on that. And as James goes back, my favorite, if speaking is silver, then listening is gold. I think that is a very strong statement, a strong quote that really sums up how you should view your online engagement and activity online. As we go to the next slide. And as an organization here at TWG Plus, we like to look at, use social media to measure how your institution's brand is perceived, how your school is rated against your current competition, what matters to current and prospective students, what's being said online about your institution. I mean, if used properly, social media is a 24/7 real-time qualitative research that can inform your marketing messages, your recruitment and engagement strategies, your branding efforts, and your day-to-day customer service practices. Although there are many, there has been many research that's been done about social media and how it's used in college choices for prospective students. However, no previous study really analyzes how current students were communicating and sharing information through a thematic standpoint. No previous study has taken such conversation and presented it in a clear, concerning, and analysis on how recruitment and engagement strategies can be used with using social media. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. James Weinberg, and he's really going to dive in deep to discuss the importance of social media, how you measure your return on investment, and most importantly, how you share with your boss or your superior on how to measure your success online.
Thank you, William. Again, my name is James Weinberg, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the methodology of our study and the approach. So from from March 1st to April 15th, 2013, we collected a whole bunch of social media and online conversation about a lot of different schools across various institutional categories as they are ranked by the U.S. News and World Report. So the first study that we did was focused on the national universities like Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Rice, a bunch of different institutions that are highly ranked in various geographic regions of the United States. We will also be in the future releasing findings based on regional universities, national liberal arts colleges, regional liberal arts colleges, and this particular report was focused on historically black colleges and universities. What we did is we took 7 highly ranking HBCUs in various geographic areas of the country, and we used a social media monitoring software to track the names of the schools, the institution's Twitter handles, and athletic mascots. When we did that, we were paying particular attention to what channels people were using to discuss these schools, channels including Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, online newspapers, blogs, forums. We also wanted to look at what the sentiment of those conversations was comprised of. So, for example, the social media monitoring software attributes each conversation that it tracks as positive, negative, or neutral, and it has basically a built-in underlying dictionary that assigns scores to words. So, for example, good might be a +1, excellent might be a +2, horrible might be a -3. We also wanted to look at the people who were communicating the most frequently about different schools. So were these people internal to the institutions? Were they current students, prospective students? And most importantly, were the people who were communicating advocates of the school, or were they possibly people who had gripes that might need some customer service intervention or maybe some misperceptions straightened out? Taking the entire body of the online conversation that we collected over this time period, we used some text analytic software to look at the frequency of different words and phrases, and we also wanted to focus on themes that have been identified as important to prospective students in the college choice process. So, for example, prior research has indicated that things like financial aid and scholarship opportunities are obviously very important to students who are selecting colleges. The availability and strength of various majors is another one. Campus safety, quality of social life. So throughout our analysis, we looked specifically for terms and phrases that were associated with those themes. When we analyzed the 2,736 unique conversations that were focused on these HBCUs, you can see that Twitter was the predominant channel with over 1,600 of those conversations. This is due largely in part to the fact that we were tracking Twitter handles. However, it also is attributable to the fact that Twitter, by its nature, is a very open channel, meaning that information can be found that is not behind a login. Conversely, Facebook, because it operates behind a login, only certain posts that are marked as public can be picked up by the software. So different channels have different challenges associated with tracking and different practices that need to be put into place to find the conversation that you're looking for. News and blog sources were also prominent in our analysis. There was a lot of online forum discussion. There are some particular forums like Talk College Confidential, where prospective students have a lot of conversation during their admissions processes. Google Plus, images and video, covers YouTube and Instagram and other sites like that, Flickr. So we're going to dive in a little deeper now. And Twitter, again, it's easy to monitor due to its public nature. So some examples of conversations that were found on Twitter are such as the ones that you're looking at. I'm at Howard University. Hopefully we'll begin my PhD program this August. Here you can see in diverse conversations, somebody mentioned that that Morehouse was ranked #1 in the list of top 20 HBCUs for 2012. keeping in line with the March Madness theme. One of the main reasons that we chose March 1st to April 15th was because that is the height of the college admission season, as well as the March Madness basketball tournament. So we figured we'd see a lot of conversation related to school spirit, related to people discussing where they were at in terms of what schools they were getting into, where they wanted to get into. So that's why we selected that time period. And here you can see that at North Carolina A&T, which was one of the focal institutions of the study, was a part of the NCAA tournament, which a lot of folks were very excited about. So you can see as you look at this slide, what you're getting here is some school spirit, but you're also talking about, or I'm sorry, you're also looking at people who are excited about potentially attending some of these institutions. And what we're going to get to a little bit later is how this methodology can be used very specifically to target prospective students. So continuing on here, Facebook, we found about a little over 300 posts. Again, we assume that there was a lot more conversation pertaining to these schools than what we were able to monitor due to Facebook's privacy restrictions. So the 306 conversations, again, these were all public-facing and therefore able to be found. But, you know, you can see here, this first one is a great example. Just got accepted into LSU, NYU, USC, Morehouse, and Emory, and the list goes on. So when we see information like this, this is very powerful from an admissions perspective because, A, it tells us that there are students who were accepted who have obviously not committed to a specific school yet, but that they might be interested in your school. And of course, this person is also giving information related to schools that are competing for enrollment. So sometimes these lists of schools will be your obvious competitor set. But oftentimes when we see students rattle off a list like this, it might challenge our notion of what our actual competitor set is. So, you know, clearly, you know, Morehouse and Howard and certain schools you're going to expect to see, you know, in the conversation. But when you start looking at Morehouse and then South Carolina and Emory, you know, that might not be what you typically think of as a competitor set. So from a institutional research person, I might look at that and say, you know, I wonder why this particular set of schools is being discussed. Is there maybe a common program that's really strong amongst all these schools that might make me think that maybe the competitor set that I think of isn't always, you know, the most relevant, or at least the one that's always relevant. Moving on to images and video. One might be thinking, well, how do you track a video if you're looking for, you know, school names? The answer is that channels like YouTube and Flickr and Instagram allow the user to insert metadata, which is basically just descriptive information about those images and videos. So in this particular video that came up that was related to Howard University, Howard University was explicitly typed in the descriptive text fields of you know, the person who posted this video, and that's why it was able to be found. Forums. Again, I mentioned College Confidential. That is a really, really popular site where prospective students go to discuss, you know, their college choice process. And you can see here somebody talking about Fisk and the fact that, you know, this person was accepted with a $10,000 scholarship, and the person is also still waiting for the decision from Howard. So again, we have information pertaining to competitor institutions. We have financial information that is clearly a cornerstone of the decision that's ultimately going to be made. And then as we continue on down, we have somebody who's hoping to continue their education at Hampton. And we have finally somebody discussing Howard and inquiring about the diversity of the student composition, which is clearly an issue that a lot of HBCUs are dealing with, as, you know, from kind of a social perspective. News and blog sources. Here again, you know, this might be people's WordPress blogs. This can also be online versions of newspapers. So here we have discussion of, you know, a lot of which is political in nature. We also have one There was an unfortunate incident at North Carolina A&T that resulted in the campus being locked down for a while. So that's the kind of thing that obviously would be covered in an online newspaper. And Reddit is a social bookmarking site that's quite popular. And here's somebody who's an international student from the UK, and they were told by one of their counselors to look into Iowa State, Michigan State, Spelman, and some other schools. So again, that's sort of an interesting post. That would make me think, why did a guidance counselor in the United Kingdom give me or this person this list of schools? Where's the common thread there? And Google+. Here's somebody congratulating Brandon for being accepted into Morehouse. Another post about the NCAA tournament, and somebody who's very proud of his or her daughter, I'm assuming, from graduating from Fisk with honors. So the sentiment analysis of the software is sentiment analysis is a bit of a burgeoning science. There's a lot of criticism about just, in fact, how accurate sentiment analysis is. For one thing, as we all know, any given comment or post might be a mixture of positive and negative. So to ascribe one attribute only might be a touch misleading. However, what we found this sentiment analysis to be particularly good for is identifying negative sentiment. And oftentimes that negative sentiment is associated with people who have customer service issues that are unaddressed. So when we use this software, what we tend to do immediately is look for negative comments and determine whether action needs to be taken on some level, as that is often the case. When we analyzed the information, we created a list of the individuals who were the most active communicators. And so the fourth one down, Spelman College, that's actually their own internal Twitter folks who are communicating. However, some of these sites are representative of individuals who in some cases are associated with colleges, in some cases might be associated with local businesses, or are just kind of people, alums who are really active in discussing their institutions. But what's important here is to, again, get an understanding for who's talking about my school and what are they saying. In many cases, schools can identify current students, alums, and others who are part of their community who are really active and willing to help spread the messages that the school wants. So if you want to promote events, open houses, big games, whatever it is, in many cases you might have an army of sort of unofficial staff members out there who can really help you spread the messages that you want out. And because of the social nature of social media, anytime you can identify individuals who are really active in helping you spread your messages, you immediately have access to their network. So as you can imagine, the potential network of people who can receive the messages you want is exponential in nature. Again, we took the entire body of online conversation and we analyzed it for frequency of words. And you can see in the middle there, Rand Paul is a big one. We did cleanse this list of institutional names because, as you can imagine, otherwise Spelman and Morehouse and some of the other focal institutions, those words would have been the largest in this word cloud. And what you're looking at in this word cloud, the larger the font size, the more often that term was mentioned. So you can see students clearly was a big one, as was the word student, Carolina, president, party. So, at a very high level, looking at this word cloud can give you a sense for what types of themes people were discussing. We were really interested in looking at how people were discussing the sort of main college choice attributes that have been uncovered in the literature as important. So again, looking at things like financial aid and scholarship opportunities, we paid very particular and specific attention to identifying the conversations that were focused on those topics. So here you can see, the first tweet there, somebody was having a bad day until they found out that Howard was giving them a $30,000 award in financial aid. God is good. So, obviously that's the kind of news that a prospective student wants to receive. The next person received an academic scholarship to Winston-Salem State University and was clearly extremely excited about that. Again, this is somebody mentioning that they got into Fisk with a $10,000 scholarship. So obviously, given the present state of tuition and fees rising and the lack of federal and state support in providing a lot of financial resources to schools, anybody who's getting a scholarship tends to be pretty happy about that. Academic reputation and strength of major. Here's somebody talking about the fact that her niece is going to be graduating from Howard in May with a Bachelor of Science in Biology and a minor in Chemistry, graduating magna cum laude. Clearly, that's quite an accomplishment. The next one down there, somebody is talking about the fact that they got a biology research internship at Spelman, and clearly indicated that that was a power move. So again, all of the schools that were the focal institutions in this study are very highly ranked, and as we pour through the data, we have a lot of support for that, the fact that these are excellent institutions with very strong programs. Tuition and fees. Usually when people are discussing these explicitly in their social media conversation, it tends not to be the greatest news. So, here's somebody who wasn't having the best experience with Howard, basically mentioning that they've already been dealing with high tuition and board, and now they're having some issues with their air conditioning. So, that obviously is a customer service need that can be identified and remedied as long as people at Howard are paying attention to their social media conversation. And obviously down at the bottom is a post that was actually issued by Hampton advertising one of their spring career fairs, and free tuition was obviously their message to try and get people to come in and stop by the fair. So clearly a good strategy there. There is, as tuition and fees rise, one of the issues that goes along with that is, what is a prospective student's employment prospects on the back end? Again, where is the ROI on investing in higher education? So we always want to talk, we want to look for how people are talking about their employment and job prospects upon graduation. So here are a couple of interesting posts. And again, all of the posts that we're talking about are just examples of what were many more. But just for the sake of this presentation, we're just focusing on a couple per topic. If anybody is interested in seeing the entire body of conversation related to all these different topic areas, please get a hold of William or myself, and we'd be happy to share with you the full data set. But this first post is really interesting. Somebody at Hampton University talking about how the university issued a ban on cornrows and dreadlocks for male business students. That is, obviously we won't go into, whether or not that was a good decision on the institution's part, but clearly what is obvious is that Hampton is very invested in helping their students make what they consider very good impressions on potential employers. So moving down below, we see that Winston-Salem State University was hosting a career and education expo, and they are explicitly encouraging people to dress for success and to bring plenty of resumes. So schools, obviously are increasingly invested in helping their graduates get good jobs. That is a necessary outcome of higher education that needs to be highlighted. Otherwise, of course, prospective students would become increasingly averse to making the investment on the front end. Campus safety. This has obviously become an issue with a slew of unfortunate events at higher education institutions as well as other types of educational institutions. One of the really important things is to look at how schools internally are communicating around crises. So this first post was an update that was issued by North Carolina A&T, where they are talking about they're basically spreading the message to their community that a lockdown was lifted, and thanking their own police. So this is a really good example of how a school should engage their community during a crisis. And then you can see right below that Winston-Salem State has issued a statement talking about how they have launched a new campus safety campaign to raise awareness about what constitutes a safe campus. So as unfortunate issues continue to unfold nationally, there are a lot of really good models to look at, as well as some very poor models for how schools can respond. So that is something that PR folks and other people responsible for institutional messaging at a mass level can look at in terms of social media data. Faculty prestige and teaching excellence is clearly a strong driver of the college choice process. This first post shows that Professor Akili Ron Anderson was deemed the greatest person at Howard. That's obviously a very nice compliment. And then the post right below that is somebody talking about the fact that Spelman College was extremely influential in her development, and among those that she thanks were her professors. Social life. This first post that you're seeing actually had an accompanying image with it that went offline, but it was a picture of somebody who was hanging around at Morehouse College with some friends, and it looked like a pretty good party was shaping up. So it was a very inviting look at what you might find on a weekend at Morehouse. And then this post right below it was a kickoff party at Hampton University for alumni, and there was also an accompanying picture with that featured people at Griff's Lounge. So social media obviously is a great way to highlight visually good times that are happening on campus, because as we all know, those good times are very important to students. And in line with employment prospects, internships, of course, are a very important component for many who are current students at our institutions. So this first post is somebody thanking Fisk for the entrepreneurship, internship, and communications courses. And then the second post there is a celebration of a Howard student who was granted a paid summer internship at Rutgers. And I have removed some of the personally identifiable information from some of these posts. That's where you see those X's. That was actually somebody's name. And even though that's public information, I chose to not highlight those individuals in this presentation for their own privacy. So as William mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, a lot of the metrics that are associated with social media, such as likes, shares, and retweets, those can very often be feel-good metrics. And I don't want to minimize the importance of those metrics because they might be correlated with the achievement of our marketing goals. However, the fact that somebody might, we might have 1 million likes on our Facebook page, that might not really translate to one matriculated student. The fact that your tweets might get retweeted again isn't necessarily associated with alumni giving. Therefore, that is why we emphasize the importance of collecting the conversation that people are having as a way to understand how our institutions are perceived, how the people at our institutions are perceived, and the events and programs, faculty, kind of the full scope. That way, we can, once we have that understanding from a qualitative perspective, that can inform our outbound communication strategy. So, understanding the themes and topics that are important to our prospective students, that really gives us as institutional marketers the ammunition that we need to engage those people in the right way. So, using the social media monitoring software that we've been discussing, we can set up extremely granular queries. So these posts that you're seeing below, basically what we did is we took specific schools and we said to the software, search for the school name as well as specific terms that have admissions value. So those terms might be applied or accepted. So you can see here somebody celebrating, or somebody basically saying, you know, of all the schools my son applied to, I want it to be Fisk. I want it to be Fisk University where he goes. So this is a great way of identifying potentially for Fisk somebody who is kind of at the top of the enrollment funnel, right? This is clearly a college influencer and a parent has basically gone online to say that, you know, he really wants his son to go to Fisk. So this is a great opportunity for college to get somebody who's obviously not, you know, maybe not even applied yet, but to start that conversation. Then, you know, there's people talking about on forums whether they have gotten off wait lists. You know, people mentioning that they've received a $15,000 scholarship from several schools. And what these posts tell us, again, is where are these people at in their college choice process? So this second to last one, you know, just waiting for Howard University to let me know if I was accepted or not. Obviously, we can assume that this person has probably been accepted or at least applied to some other schools. And so if I'm at Howard and I want this kid, you know, this might prompt me to act quickly. And you know, that might be a phone call, it might be a letter. The specific communication practices that might be put in place pending these types of posts, you know, obviously relies on our own judgment and our own staffing and different policies. However, when we see students who have, you know, mentioned that they were accepted into our school, but that they're considering others, maybe that invites a personalized communication. Maybe as admissions people, that tells us, you know, let's make a phone call and just make sure that this kid understands the full scope of the scholarship opportunities or the programmatic offerings that we have. You know, what can we do basically to get them to matriculate when they've clearly showed enough interest to go online and mention that they were accepted to our school. So that really wraps up the bulk of the data that we wanted to present to you. And we wanted to really open this up now to see if anyone has any questions. At this time, I also want to mention that we have been making a recording of this presentation, which we will send to everyone who's in attendance. And we really invite you to speak with us, you know, afterwards to you know, get maybe a better understanding of how the software works, what types of services we can provide around data like this. So I'm just going to open up the floor now. Also ask William if William, do you have anything else that you'd like to add or discuss?
Well, I would love to just hear some questions, just to get a sense of what interests might have come from this presentation. So please do, anyone, feel free to jump in.
At this time, I'm not seeing any questions. However, again, if anybody wants to speak with us offline, we would be more than happy to have a conversation or address any questions. I'm seeing what looks like somebody. Oh, okay. Somebody wanted to explain Reddit in more detail, and to do that, I'm actually going to open the Reddit web page, because I think that since we have visual capability, there's no reason not to show it. So, as they say, Reddit is a website about everything. So what it really is, it's kind of like a giant discussion forum where people can kind of join different groups and interest areas, and it's sort of like a giant dynamic communication forum. And I see that there's more. I'm trying to expand this question here so I can see it better. Just bear with me for 1 second here. I'm sorry, what was the website that features a lot of students' opinions on their college choice processes? Oh, okay, great. I will go to that. But just before, I just want to finish answering the question about Reddit. So similar to Google Trends, Reddit categorizes conversations as new and rising and controversial. So these can be very sort of juvenile and very kind of haphazard conversations, or they can be much more substantive. So there are kind of ways to join different conversations, but a lot of college-related conversation happens in these. And I want to show you. Somebody wanted to. Somebody was asking, are we recommending Reddit as a channel to monitor? Yes, we are. So the way that our software works is literally millions of online channels are by default tracked. So Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, kind of all the big players. Reddit is a specific channel that is included as part of the mix. Any channel can be deselected in the software options. So, for example, if you wanted specifically not to track Facebook or Reddit or anything else, you could filter out those conversations. To be honest, I have never encountered a situation in a practical sense for a college where it really makes sense to do that. We tend to feel that having all the conversation that we can track is probably a good starting point, and that filtering it out after you have decided you might not need it is better than not having it to begin with. But that option is there, and I'm going to show you that software in just a minute too. But there was another question about College Confidential, and I just want to show you that as well. And this is a forum that bills itself as the world's largest college forum. And what students will use it to actually search for colleges, but all those conversations that were displayed in this presentation they're basically like these little online. It's almost like a built-in email where kids can talk back and forth, and they do so about specific schools. And some of those conversations again came up in this presentation. So this is a very, very rich source of information. I would highly recommend that anybody in admissions would sign up for this site and to search for the conversation that's taking place about their schools. A very, very powerful source of information. Now, I'm just gonna take a moment to show you all what our software looks like that we use to track these conversations. And this is our own software system. And it'll just take a second here. But I'm going to show you some conversation about, let's take a school here. Since we're talking about HBCUs, let me just go there. And I'm just going to give you a sense for what the software looks like. Because we're running a webinar and using the software, it can be a little bit slow. So just sorry for that. Just bear with us for 1 second. And what you're about to see here is all of the recent conversation related to Spelman College. And how this works is just like doing a Google search. You are basically searching the internet for whatever terms you have input. So if we were to type Spelman College in a Google search, we would get traditional websites. We'd get spelman.edu and a lot of other sources. However, this software looks exactly, it operates like a Google search, but instead of searching those traditional websites, it's searching specifically for conversation on these social media channels. And here on the left side of the screen, you can see those data sources. So you see Delicious, which is another social bookmarking site, Facebook, forums, that's like that College Confidential, Google+, images and video, which spans YouTube and Instagram and Flickr and a whole bunch of others, Reddit, online reviews, Twitter. So what you see here in the center of the screen is all of the conversation focused on these schools. So here, the term that we searched for was Spelman College. So literally any mention on social media of Spelman is going to come up here. And let's find a good example of something. Are HBCUs still relevant? So here's an interesting one. From within the software interface, we have the ability to do lots of things. We can actually engage with people on Twitter by replying or retweeting. But the first thing we can do is we can click on View, and what that's going to do is it's going to show the actual post as it appeared on the social media channel. So here is somebody at the HBCU Career Center who is obviously promoting the relevance of HBCUs. And you can see here that this little bird, of course, is the Twitter icon. Here is a Facebook post, a forum post. So you can see, again, all of these different channels that are being used to talk about Spelman, Google+. So clearly, you can see that the date range over on the right here, we've got, let's see, today is the 29th, but we have a number of posts from yesterday, a lot of posts from October so far. And here on the left side, here in the lower left area, are a lot of different schools that we're searching for. So if we look for a much more granular search that might be specific to admissions, here is another query for searching for the words accepted and Morehouse. And it will just take a second here to populate. Apologize for the delay here. We're having some sort of little computer issue here. So here we go. So what you're seeing now is an example of how a very granular query can be set up. So you can see that the initial keyword that we were searching for here was Morehouse College, and then we said you also have to find the word accepted. So here is a post from May, and it was on Reddit, and it's somebody basically saying that he was accepted into Morehouse with a 3.5 GPA. So this is a way a lot of schools have considerably more results for this particular query, but as you can imagine, being able to collect individual posts of everybody that mentions the word accepted or admitted or considering or going to. The process of finding these results is a little bit iterative, and you have to be kind of experimental and try and get in the minds of prospective students and other people. So sometimes the terminology that we might use as adults and professionals isn't always what students are using. So the more that we look at this data, the better sense we get for how kids are talking. And so in many cases we have to input terms that might not be the first to come to our minds. But let's see if we can find something that's a little bit more has some more results here. Again, this will just take a second to refresh. This is another query. We're looking for North Carolina A&T and accepted. And here you can see some interesting posts. So here's somebody mentioning that this is Jamrock Zay mentioning that he got accepted to University of Miami and North Carolina A&T. Somebody else on Facebook, Diamond Princess, got accepted to North Carolina A&T State. So again, when we see posts like this, and because we're collecting this data in real time, this provides admissions personnel with the opportunity to act very quickly because, of course, when people are considering colleges, they might be making a pretty quick decision. So maybe we would want to reach out as an admissions officer to this person here, who I'm going to bring up the status. This is Andre Harris. So the first step here would be to cross-check your prospective student database and look for Andre Harris and determine whether or not Andre has in fact committed. And if the answer was no, as an admissions counselor, what I would probably do is maybe reach out personally, not necessarily on Twitter because we don't want to make people feel like we're stalking them, but maybe again a phone call, maybe a personalized email, something in a timely way that ideally leverages the information they give us. So in this case, we know that Andre is considering Miami as well. Now we're not necessarily going to mention that, but what we might want to do is mention some of the differentiators about North Carolina A&T that make it a better choice than other schools. So again, a post like this I think is perfect ammunition for an admissions counselor to maybe create a personalized communication that could be very timely and very powerful. Any other questions? I know that's quite a bit of data we just showed you. Anybody else?
So James, I just want to throw out a question there. Here.
Yes.
So saying that, all right, I have Facebook, I have Twitter. What do you find, essentially the question is, what social media channels are most effective and which should I be using primarily at my institution?
Okay. Well, the big players in social media, which are really just channels that it seems everybody has to have, are Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I would say that those three, and I'm going to throw LinkedIn as well. Those four channels, as I work with a lot of schools, are the four that I say, look, you just have to be on those channels. Facebook, obviously, just because of its membership and visibility, is huge. Same thing with Twitter, and with Twitter now going public, in all likelihood, it's only going to get bigger and more popular. YouTube has tremendous power because, one, it's owned by Google, and it's actually the second or third biggest search engine in the world behind Google, even if it was a standalone. And so basically, when people use YouTube well, they are gaining a lot of visibility on Google and other search engines because Google likes to reward its own products. In that way, Google Plus is also becoming a channel that we often recommend. LinkedIn is huge because of the professional implications, particularly at the graduate level. For schools that are trying to promote their graduate programs and recruit for online or adult programs, I can't recommend LinkedIn highly enough. And then again, there's a ton of other channels out there. There's new ones every day. Instagram is becoming huge. It's a great channel. It's very easy. It has a lot of potential to give people compelling and engaging content because it's image based. But what I always encourage people to do when they're considering what channels to use is to say what can we really do well given our staffing and resource limitations. So I would argue that it's much better to use a small handful of channels really well and stay on top of them than to try and get on to everything. Because one thing that will really sour people is if they are posting on a channel that you've made available, but nobody on your end is monitoring it and responding. People don't like being ignored on social media. So therefore, again, I think it's you really have to look at your goals and your staffing and say, what channels can we really manage well? Does that answer your question, William?
Yes, I think it does.
Anybody else?
James, I think there's another question here.
Okay. I don't know that I am seeing it. Can you? Oh, did you track all HBCUs? I don't see my schools, Florida A&M and Clark Atlanta. No, we did not track all HBCUs. What we did is for all of the institutional categories that the U.S. News and World Report makes available, which again are those national universities, national liberal arts colleges, regional universities, regional liberal arts colleges, and HBCUs, we took a sampling of schools in those categories based on geography. So, we wanted to get HBCUs in some different states. And so apologies for those of you whose schools were not included in this report. It was not due in any way to our preferences or lack of preferences for specific schools. Our methodology was entirely based on trying to get as representative a sample as we could, and also, just our ability to do a good job presenting you with information. But anybody who is interested in working with us, there are no limitations to what schools and terms or people or anything can be tracked. So even though you might not be seeing your information in this presentation, that does not mean that we cannot get to it. And then the last question, is there a cost to your service or the software? Yes, we work with schools in a variety of capacities. We have a couple of different pricing options based on the scope of services. It really depends upon the extent to which people want solely access to the software or whether they want to work with us in a more consultative capacity on top of just having a software subscription. So for example, we work with some schools where really they just want a subscription and they have their own people who they feel good about using the software and analyzing the data. And in some cases, we might just provide an initial training. In other cases, we actually work with schools where we are the ones to analyze the data and present recommendations on how the data might be acted upon from an admissions perspective or an advancement perspective. So again, that's really, those decisions are typically made pending this, how the school feels about their own internal capacity. But we are very flexible in how we work with schools on social media initiatives. So I hope that answers your question. William would be a great person to get a hold of to discuss potential scopes of work and pricing. Any last questions out there? I know we've kept you almost a full hour, and we really appreciate you staying on with us. I know we've thrown a good bit of information out there. If anybody's in attendance also who hasn't seen the full report, we'd be happy to send that to you as well. And again, we will also be following up this webinar with a recorded version as soon as we make that available online, which will be soon.
Excellent, excellent. Well, again, if there isn't any other questions or concerns, again, we thank you for your time. Please do feel free to reach out to us. James and myself are always traveling, so I'm sure at some point we're in your area. We'll love to treat you for coffee or lunch. Again, thank you, and have a great day.